Antec dual chamber design, now in mATX. Good afternoon, welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech. If you're new here, I'm recently 4-piece from your Wooks Triple XL. And we have the CX600M, basically like their C8, but they're okay, it's part of the Constellation series, and it's very similar to the really big one that I did a little while ago, which did look very, very, very pretty. And this has just as much flexibility in cooling, and it still looks really awesome. And I actually prefer mATX for like mid-range builds. And this is one of the ways to make it look really flippin' cool, because obviously you've got the double glass side panel. Obviously have it off so that you can see inside the case and not just a horrible reflection, because I love you. But virtue signaling aside, let's get into what's in the box. So you obviously get the case itself. It does come with the included fans that you see, the one on the back over here and the two on the side. And those are reverse flow fans. I have seen some people with the Evetech dual chamber reversing those when they're reverse flow so that it only has exhaust. But that's beside the point. In this instance, we have 2 in and 1 out by default. They're not the best ever. I wouldn't sort of write home about them. Starting off with their connections as well. There is a SATA connection and then there is an addressable RGB header. That RGB header is a little bit short. I couldn't get it to the bottom right, which is the only ARGB header on this motherboard. A lot of them will have one on the top left or top right of the motherboard, or maybe even on this side, in which case it will reach that just fine because it's connected to this fan, this back fan. They all daisy chain one into the other, and that's really the only real way to interface with the kit. The case's layout and design, if we look at the front on picture empty, you can see that the build plate is slightly in front for the motherboard. That's just to make space at the back for cabling and such, which it does a really good job of by doing that. Then you've got the 2 fans on the side wall over there, as I said, and the one at the back over here. On top, we've got dimensioning for not only 360 but 280mm rads as well. I don't think you'd be able to fit a full length 420 because it seems to be only dimensioned for 360mm on the top. So you're going to be limited to 280 or 360mm, but that in this kind of space is plenty 20. And then you've got 360mm on rails at the bottom as well. Also mesh, also magnetically removable. And then the little feet to help it stand up so that the air can flow in underneath there. So if you've got it on a hard desk, which I hope so, don't use this on the floor with the carpet. Please don't do that. Put fans over here and then put it on the floor so what? It can just suck up all the carpet and dust straight into your PC. That is not going to be what I would call a yoba. Then looking around the back, we've got a lot of space over there. Angled mount for the power supply, so it sits, instead of sitting square like that, it sits rotated 90 degrees to make sure that it doesn't become too wide. It is still obviously quite a wide boy, and then it's got a ton of area over there for fan space, and obviously full mesh on the side of the case, both back and front, because the power supply also needs to be able to breathe. So you can obviously get your fan then orientated towards the outside area, and then it's going to be able to breathe through those holes at the back of it. So well thought out. On the top as well, we've got a bunch of I/O over here. They've included an LED and a reset switch this time, so that you can just have the LED and then still keep your reset switch, which is a nice little plus. Then they've done a little bit of a cheat over here as well. You've got the normal USB 2.0. You've got a full split system for headphone jack and for mic that plugs in HD audio into the motherboard. And then the cheat, they're using the USB 3 bus for the Type-C. So it's not a full fat Type-C. It's not going to give you 15 amps or 10 amps. It's probably going to be limited to 5 depending on your motherboard, but in general most of them are 5 volt 5 amps. It's still going to be enough that you can connect in a Type-C, and you're going to get close to full speed sort of thing, like not really, but it's still a Type-C connection on the front of the case. Speaking of the front of the case, that's where we find the nice inlet piece of wood over there with the Antec logo at the bottom, and then that other full glass front panel. The panels on these are all slightly tinted, and I'm really pro this because once you close it up, it doesn't show the cables as much as the RGB inside the case, which I think is kind of a nice touch. In general, the build quality of this is good. The only thing is the fans are a little bit I would say under spec for this kind of price point, but if you just buy a fan kit and kit it out with that, you're going to need to get for 360mm at the bottom if you want all of that intake, and then if you had like a 240 or 280mm rad up top, that's going to be ideal. The air cooler only just fits inside here. I mean, if I'm handy, it's like maybe 2 or 3 mils worth of clearance, and this is an AK400, so that's going to be your maximum height. Most of them are about 170 mils, so just be a little bit careful with that. There is space to put a bigger power supply. We've got the Antec 850 Gold in here, the old HCG, which is quite a beefy boy, and it fit with absolutely no problems. Really easy cable management and stuff on the back for the build. Overall, I flippin' love this little case. Any layout wise, it's really good. I obviously did some performance testing. We have our MB511, hold that thought. This little sucker over here, which you can see has 2 on the intake on the front, and it's got an exhaust and then 1 at the back. And these are the Cooler Master sickle flows, which are quite a lot higher end than the fans that were included in this, and they cost like $1,000, which is like most of the price of this whole case. So yeah, these are, I would say, a little bit higher spec, so don't expect it to be all that close. However, if we then look at the performance results, yes, it isn't quite as good, but it's been very hot here in Johannesburg. I tested these at about 26 degrees Celsius ambient temperature, so pretty high, and it still did okay. And not with a lot of fans. If I had to put in 3 intakes at the bottom, it would be day and night. I'm very sure of that, because the air can always just come out through the open gaps and stuff that we find in the case. I think that you should look at this as like a mid-premium sort of build. If you're into mATX, ITX, and you wanted a cool looking dual chamber, it's got that as much done. The general layout is exceptional with this. And honestly, the only thing really missing from this is a couple of garrets on the wall over there for where the cables come through. That's my only complaint, and the only thing really, and that the fan kit is a little bit entry level for this price point. At $1,600, it's still a lot of case, and it's still a really, really cool dual chamber design. If you wanted to make something look really awesome, this is a great way to do it. The fact that it has all of this space over here to put in a bigger GPU is a really big plus for me as well. So you can do a full mATX build with water cooling, ample space. There's tons of space up here between the motherboard and the top of the motherboard and the top of the case, which you can see in a nice close-up over there. So you're going to be able to do like all of your fans and stuff without like really straining to get everything in. It's got all the appropriate holes leading through to the back, and then a nice space for you to do cable management. It's exactly the same as their bigger case, just miniaturized and built for mATX. So I gotta love it. I've got to give this a solid 9 out of 10. Anywho, that is all I have for you on the CX600M. If you have enjoyed this, please hit us up with a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side.